What kind of fuckery is this? You made me miss the slick Ricky.
Why are you listening and agreeing with Candace, Tucker, Matt, Marjorie Taylor Greene? I pray to God they don't make me regret speaking on their behalf. They're America first. They followed Trump because Trump kept saying that he was America first. And they have a rude awakening, right? So during the time when they woke up, they are not considered woke. Because I think if we look at it, I don't know who implemented the anti-woke campaign, but they went in heavy from 2020 on about being woke. And here's the thing, when you're woke, you can see. When you can see, you can strategize. And so now they are strategizing. Listen, if I had a think tank, these are the folks that I would want in my fucking think tank. So listen to them because they are America first. Before, there was a time when Americans could agree to disagree. This is not, we can't go back to a time like that again, because what we have found out is that in our midst, there were individuals collecting data, collecting information, collecting grievances, collecting connections to infiltrate those connections, and for the purpose of building their own narrative. My lovely family and friends, we are going to do the same thing. We're doing the same thing. And guess what? Many Zionists are going to help us. You want to know why? Because what's happening right now, that's not what they signed up for. They could have done this differently. 7 years of emails sent to the media, my loves, especially if you're a Zionist, were meant to save you from what is happening right now. They could have done it differently. And you need to know that that is true. Especially if you are a Zionist who bought Israeli bonds, who invested in that country, who has been indoctrinated since you were a kid. The way that Netanyahu is doing this is not the only way that it can or needs to be done. It's the only way that he and whoever is running him believes that it can be done. Now here's a way out there theory. Since we know that there are individuals who have been messing with time. I've seen the future. I know people have been messing with time. So it is within the realm of possibility that someone in that arena, because they don't go by the rules, went into the future, saw on multiple timelines that someone within the community of Iran would use a nuclear bomb someday. But that is what is that movie, iRobot? Israel is we're living in an iRobot situation right now. They are saying Iran is going, and listen to the way they're saying it. They're saying someone in Iran is going to take certain action in the future, and they have it hard. It is hard, right? So all energy has weight. So when I do reads, and when I'm figuring out if someone's telling the truth or not, everything has weight. I can step into the presence of someone and know if they have been talking about me, and whether or not it's good or bad. And so here, in this situation, Israel is convinced, in a paranoid, obsessive kind of way, such that they have attacked the entire Middle East and have, narratively speaking, influenced and radicalized Americans and folks in the West to believe the same thing. This is very iRobot. And so, what I did was I wrote Trump an email. And I said to him, I said, okay, so what they're basically saying is, if they go down, we all go down. Okay, let's all accept that. Let's all accept that Israel is that crazy, that they can't just come out and explain to us why this obsession, because it is unnatural. It is unnatural. It is unnatural what is happening. And I'm stunned at the behavior of our world leaders. Again, we need to find the body snatching machine in apparently there's one in Europe too. Who's that guy? We're in the middle of a planetary takeover by some aliens that have been here since Reagan. I can't sing. That's not my arena. I see shit and I talk about it. I don't sing.
It's not even about the right and the left. Fuck the right and the left. It's not about right and left. It's about, are you with our civilization? Are you with Jesus? Are you with America? Those are the questions that matter. Israel's against all of them. Israel's against America. Israel is against the church. They're against Christ. They're against our civilization. They always have been.
I never thought that I would see a day where I would be rooting for a university above Donald J. Trump and his administration. But I don't recognize his administration right now. I don't recognize what's happening. How could Trump be such a free speech enthusiast and allowing these things to happen? Going after college universities, trying to suppress speech, while pretending that you're not suppressing speech, while pretending that you're fighting DEI. It's so messy, it's so obvious. Everyone knows what you're doing. People who are still trying to grift, I suppose, are not willing to challenge you on this, which is ridiculous, because when you are out of office, we are going to have to live with these consequences. Our children are going to have to grow up in this America, okay? So when you threaten our speech, it's not worth it so that we can have pom-poms and go hurrah for a couple of years, then go, okay, well, yeah, now it kind of stinks because, oh, we're getting arrested for wrong thing. To my team the other day that Bibi Netanyahu is now reaching a level of psychopathology where it's almost like he wants to get caught. Do you know what I mean? He's smirking all the time. He's like, who's going to stop me? He's conducting a genocide in broad daylight. His cabinet members are explicitly stating that their aims are, in fact, an ethnically cleansing. We have IDF soldiers speaking out about what they're doing, telling the truth about what's happening, just plucking off Palestinian kids. The ICC criminal court issued a warrant for his arrest. And what does he do? What does he do? He sits across from Donald Trump and he says, I, Bibi Netanyahu, am going to elect you for the Nobel Peace Prize. Because I should have say on that topic of who's been peaceful, and I decide that it's you. Yeah, sure, 400,000 Palestinians are missing, as it's been reported, but who cares? I have so much power, somebody stop me. Seriously, did you guys see that clip? It's Bibi Netanyahu is electing Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. He's shameless. This is essentially a mass murderer showing up to the funeral of his victims. That's what we're seeing here. He's like, I did this, but I got to see the results here. And Trump is just taking it. Not only is Trump just taking it, he's also furiously tweeting out support for Bibi Netanyahu and the trials, because even the Israelis are taking him through the court system due to his corruption. And there's no reason for Trump to say anything about those trials. But he's doing it anyways. Trump is not required by any stretch of an imagination to speak out about those trials happening in Israel, but he's doing it, okay? Jeffrey Epstein is becoming this perfect example about how our reality is just being shaped for us. I feel like we're in a video game. Do you feel like we're in a video game and we're maybe losing? And now, as we're starting to realize this matrix, it's glitching in front of us. And the people who created it are basically saying, ha, nana boo-boo, you can't do anything. They don't care because what are you going to do? And I want to be clear, the headlines today, yesterday, they have been unequivocal to Trump, right? They have said, your base hates this. Okay. MAGA is splitting over this Epstein thing, left, right, and center. All of the publications, literally. Conservative ones, liberal ones, ones in the middle. Here are just some of the headlines making that very clear. Here's CNN. Trump is daring MAGA to oppose him right now. That's what it kind of feels like. It's a dare. Like, are you going to oppose me? I'm Trump. Washington Post, same thing. Immigration, Epstein, Ukraine, Trump's moves roil the MAGA base. This is Al Jazeera. Why is MAGA angry with Trump and Pam Bondi over the Epstein files? This is the Daily Caller, conservative. Dark forces at play. MAGA revolts over Trump's DOJ's Epstein findings. It's even trending on Truth Social, so we can't miss this, right? Truth Social has their trending topics. That is literally Trump's social media platform. And it's all regarding Epstein. Look at this. Epstein cover-up, Epstein client list, hashtag Epstein. And let's be clear, Trump won this last election decisively because many people on the left came over to the right. Why do they do that? For two reasons. One, because Make America Healthy Again, the MAGA movement, obviously RFK Jr. was significant with that. You know, moms were upset about this, everything that's happening with the CDC, COVID, but also because of the promise of no more wars. Everyone's tired. We have fatigue. Again, I'm going to throw it to Cigar and Tucker that are discussing that. Take a listen.
The problem is the promise of MAGA is America first. And the contradiction is just too obvious. You can't, you know, if you're Joe Biden and you're, you know, senile and it's being run by a bunch of sinister, shadowy figures in the background and you do something like this, it's like, of course they're doing it. But if you get up and you say, we're going to restore greatness to this country, we're going to do it by putting our own interests first. That's what every country does. That's kind of natural. It's organic. And then you put the interests of a country of 9 million people above your own in a way that's just insulting.
Yes.
People can't deal with that. Like their brains start to explode. And I think this is blowing up the coalition.
I actually, on our show, our producer went to the Bronx, AOC's district, and interviewed people who were AOC Trump voters. And the number one reason that we got from them was war. It was the promise to bring an end to the war, both in Israel and Gaza and in Ukraine.
You guys have seen the picture of Trump pulling out Netanyahu's chair while he's sitting down, right? Every other world leader, Trump does the handshake and brings him in. Netanyahu, he just like, come sit right here, come sit there. He's the only person that Trump seems afraid of, right? And you guys are Trump supporters. You know the slogan, America First, correct? Mm-hmm. How can we put America first but send $4 billion to Israel every year? Remember the lie of the weapons of mass destruction? Mm-hmm. Remember when they said that? You know who said that in front of Congress? That was Benjamin Netanyahu. He told our government, Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. They have chemical weapons. We need to go there and stop them. We were in that war for over 10 years. We found out they had no weapons of mass destruction. They need us to have, they need American base in the Middle East, right? Because Israel's so hated. There's a small little nation in the Middle East surrounded by Arab countries and other people that don't want them there because they have nukes, but nobody else can have nukes. We'll say we have to invade Iran because they can't have nukes. Israel has a nuclear bomb. And nobody, all the surrounding countries, they're not okay with that. So they need to have some support. They drag us time and time again into the Middle East to go and fight their wars for them with the lie that we're their greatest ally while we receive no benefits from them at all.
Don't believe me, just ask Charlie Kirk.
How did these guys not know this was taking place?
So I've been to Israel many times. The whole country's a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that's an IDF soldier, right? The whole country is surveilled. And so let me just kind of go through this. We don't talk about Israeli politics very often, and most Americans don't know this. The last 9 months, Israel was on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu was basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to say to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question.
Questions that Bibi Netanyahu doesn't want to answer. By the way, and to the people who really do believe that God's chosen people rape, murder, destroy, pillage, lie, deceive, blackmail Jeffrey Epstein, all of our politicians, buy, purchase, threaten, manipulate. Goodness, you may really want to crack open a Bible if you think that those are the signs of God's chosen people. Shoot presidents in broad daylight. Yeah, no. It shouldn't take you a theology course. It should just take a little bit of common sense to tell you that no, that is not what God's chosen people do.
With Donald Trump, would you support him publicly again?
What I will say is that he's been a chronic disappointment, and I feel embarrassed that I told people to go vote for him. I just think that the picture of politics in America is going to look very differently because of his actions. So I don't know where we go from here. I really don't. But this is not the candidate that I voted for. Urging, ladies and gentlemen, the American policy is that Israel can do whatever the hell it wants. They can assassinate sitting presidents. They can steal our secrets and hand it to the enemy. They can steal our technology. They can blackmail our politicians and businessmen. They can protect those who rape our children. They can murder Palestinian children. They can steal land. They can blackmail sitting presidents, like they did with Clinton. They can do deals, not just with the Soviet Union. They can do deals with Adolf Hitler and his Nazi party ahead of establishing themselves as a nation, as the Zionist group literally did with the Habarah Agreement. Don't you dare ask questions about that, as we're all being called Nazis, strangely, by Zionists. So long as they say, at the end of all of that, that we did it to protect the Jewish state. That is effectively the American government policy. And I want you to know something else. They're laughing at you. They are laughing at you. Whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, whether you're independent, you are the end of a ha-ha joke. And that's how it felt, by the way, when yesterday, when we were discussing all of these things, we were discussing.
But now the other chance is kind of mangled because the Israelis and Bibi moved this to what they moved it to, and let's have an adult conversation, to regime change or regime destruction. That's what he's pitching the other night. Pitching the other night when he said, this is not America first, America dead. Who in the hell are you to lecture the American people? Who are you to lecture the American people? American people are not going to tolerate it. Not going to put up with it. Who are you to jam us into this situation which you knew you couldn't finish the job? Or if you can, go finish it. You got plenty of things. Say, hey, Bannon, don't know his time. When you finish, then go finish it. Quit coming to us to finish it.
What they're doing is what they always do, which is just turning up the propaganda hose to full blast and just trying to, knock elderly Fox viewers off their feet and make them submit to a new war. The Fox platform is just, it's so disgraceful. There's so many good people at Fox. I worked for the Murdochs for, all in over 20 years. I always liked them. I like them now. I'm not attacking them personally, and tons of people at Fox are my friends. And there's a lot about Fox that I love, and they were kind to me, always. Even when they fired me, they were nice. I just want to say that.
Even a good conversation that we could have about a particular issue is immediately hijacked by the conspiratorial nonsense from the other side. So now we don't even get to debate the policy position.
Do you think that that is a product of the right wing or a product of the right wing, like on Twitter? Online?
It's an intentional product of the entirety of the right wing. They can't fight on policy because they've had none since at least 2016. So they have to make it about either perceived reality or about bullshit culture issues or about conspiracy paranoia. They can't possibly fight on policy because what the policy would they even argue for? Tax cuts? Like what is the policy of the right? Now they're trying to say, well, we were actually, we like pre-existing conditions from the Affordable Care Act. No, you didn't. The first thing Donald Trump did when he came into office was he tried to completely and totally fucking get rid of it. It was only McCain's vote that stopped it. And then they went to the Supreme Court to try to get rid of it. And now he's trying to say, well, Republicans like that the whole time. Bullshit. He's talking about inflation and budget deficits. Donald Trump ran a massive budget deficit. For what reason? Before COVID, there was no reason for that. And he wants to take credit for the economy at the same time he's doing wild, unhinged spending. Why? Why do you get to do both? So conservatives are just but they don't care about the policy ground anymore.
32 members of Congress are foreign born, not born in the United States.
Really?
32.
Ted Cruz is not American. He's like a secret Canadian?
He's from Canada, not Texas.
Why are almost every single Republican I'm aware of, other than you and maybe Massey, is like in this weird kind of Israel worship mode all the time? And many Democrats, by the way, Pelosi, chief among them.
So when a candidate steps forward and they're running for Congress, they get approached by all kinds of groups, all the special issue groups, everything from pro-life groups to pro-gun groups, Christian groups, and there's a group called AIPAC. Each group has a survey form because they want to know where you are on the issues, which I think is a good thing. I think there's a group called AIPAC, and they come and they want to know what's your position on Israel. And then if you get elected to Congress, if you win your race, everyone's freshman year, AIPAC will take Republicans and Democrats, new members, on a special trip to Israel.
Do they pay for it?
I don't know. I don't know because they didn't take me. I didn't even get invited. It wasn't that I turned it down. I didn't even get invited. And I'm not anti-Semitic. I wish Israel the best. I wish them all the best. I wish everybody the best. But they didn't take me on the trip.
I do too.
But here's the situation, and it can't be ignored, and I have no problem talking about it. I think any special interest group, if they are representing another country, a foreign country, they have to register that way.
Under the Foreign Agent Registration Act, FARA.
We have a law. Yes, they should register under that law. And their Americans are members of AIPAC. They're members. They donate to it.
Well, sure.
But if you're still an American and you were representing the interest of any foreign country, you still have to register.
Paul Manafort's an American. He's from Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
And he was convicted as an American for not registering as a foreign agent, as a foreign lobbyist. So, I mean, the argument that it's Americans doing the lobbying, that's the point. Americans who are lobbying on behalf of a foreign country have to register. Doesn't mean they can't lobby. It's just it's fair to have them register.
Yes.
So why isn't AIPAC registered? Why aren't they registered under FARA? I don't understand that.
I think everybody's too afraid to push that issue.
Why?
Tucker, I have no idea. Because I think it's because it's such a strong group that will come against you. They will come against you. They will fund a primary against you. I'll probably get a primary funded against me for even saying this on this show. But you know what? I don't care.
I think you were getting one anyway.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm probably getting one. And that's fine. And my district can vote for whoever they want to represent them. They can.
It's just funny. It's like you and Massey are the only member, and the whole class, Republicans are the majority of the House of Representatives, majority of 435.
Yeah, both sides.
And well, 535 with the Senate. And I still think you and Massey are the only ones who've ever said anything like this.
I'm sure. I'm sure we're the only ones. We're not the only ones that think it, but we're the only ones that say it.
So that's my next question.
But it's not anti-Semitic to say it.
Well, obviously. That's
because
silly.
I had a group coming to me and saying, we really want to make sure that you're voting to fund $3.3 billion, every single year to whatever, Switzerland. Exactly. That would be the same thing.
But if maybe there is a Swiss lobby, but I would expect them to register under the law.
Of course. And
I
they
wouldn't be an
probably
anti-Swiss bigot
for
saying otherwise. So I guess I don't really want to play along, but I'm wondering, this is all so very obvious and so rational and so relevant right now.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody ever mention this in the Congress? I mean, you've been there for a while.
No, they have their blind faith and loyalty. blind faith and loyalty. And they're scared to say it.
And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Unreal. More threats. God bless Israel, he says. Awesome. Well, I'm just glad Israel is safe. Americans may die. We're involved in another war. But hey, as long as Israel is safe, well, there's your 5-minute speech. What a joke. What a sick joke. And people said it was going to be quick. Well, we'll get into what's going to happen next. There's the president's speech. Now, we don't know what the damage is. They say that the facility at Fordo has been destroyed, but that has not been independently verified yet. Now the question is what Iran does next. Will Iran retaliate? I don't know why they wouldn't. The United States says we're prepared to carry out more strikes. It will be easier. There's still plenty of targets. So if Iran retaliates, and they almost certainly will, against U.S. bases in the region, of which there are many, in Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, the Emirates, Qatar, elsewhere, then the United States will go back in and carry out more strikes. All of the culture war propaganda, it's bait. It's all fake. You know, I'm watching videos by Daniel Schmidt and John Doyle. I'm watching videos by young white guys who think that our country is being run by black bureaucrats. Young white radicals who have been screwed out of a future. Their future has been mortgaged. This is a country financed by debt. No one is deflating this global debt bubble. We are all going to pay the cost. And they have been tricked by billionaires into taking out their anger at black people. But they are not the planners and the managers of our society. And yet, young white radicals, all of their righteous indignation and anger is being channeled and directed at Democrats. It's being directed at bureaucrats in the federal government. Everything is being channeled as an attack against DEI, as an attack against some such policy like that. Don't look at the billionaires that are funding this. Don't look too closely at Musk and Thiel and Andreessen and Adelson. Don't look at those people. It's the black and brown bodies in the Department of Education. They're the problem. What? Liberals were right fundamentally about Trump. Whether he has good intentions or bad intentions, whether he means well or not, some people blame his advisors. Some people blame people around him. Whatever you think about his culpability, he is in effect, okay? Maybe not consciously or intentionally, but in effect, what he is a demagogue. What he is a populist demagogue. And directionally, what liberals said about him, which is that he was stirring up the rubes, animating the rubes with nativist rhetoric and ginning up resentment against the system to empower himself and the people around him, and then brought the swamp closer to the periphery in his first and second administration, willing to say and do anything. Yeah, that all kind of turned out to be true. Yeah, that basically turned out to be true. Garbage. And at the Trump rallies, they're yelling, trash for Trump, trash for Trump. And I saw other people. I saw white guys. I saw Hispanic guys inside trash cans, jumping out of them with Trump signs. White guys with garbage bags that say trash for Trump 2024. And that was kind of like, to me, that was the moment when I realized Trumpism was a cult. That was the moment when I realized liberals are right. That was the moment when I realized it has gone too far. It is Frankenstein's monster. We have created a golem. It is a problem. You know, for years, liberals said, it's a cult. You're in a cult. And I said, you're going to jail. You're going to jail. It is a cult, and we are in it, and you are going to jail. That's how I felt about it for the past 8 years. But then I saw themselves dressing up as trash, like uncritically just dressing up as garbage and saying, we're garbage. Yeah, we're garbage. And I said, yeah, I think we have a problem. It's like that moment in Scientology when they tell you about Xenu. Would you rather have Trump be responsible for the war in Iran or Kamala? Because I explained the rationale very clearly last year. Not that she would destroy Israel, she would own the issue. Meaning that whatever Israel does would be, just like with Biden, would be her responsibility. Because Trump was more critical of the war when Biden was president. And Trump would have went down as a martyr. He would have went to jail, and it would have been up to interpretation what his legacy is. It would have been up to the imagination. Now he's destroying his legacy, which I'm actually happy about. These idiots elected him, and now he is destroying his own legacy. And I'm happy to see it. I am happy to see him immolate it because, you know, in truth, he never lived up to America first. And now he's torching it all down by making concessions and compromises. And now it's going to pave the way for something new. And I hope that it's going to take Vance and Peter Thiel and the rest of them with it. So this is maybe the most accelerationist option. But I thought that if Kamala won, Trump would go down as a martyr and people could project onto it whatever they wanted. They could say, well, if he won, he would have done this, he would have done that. Because we would have never known, we could project onto it all of our hopes and aspirations, and he would have been a martyr and his legacy would have been preserved. Since he got elected, he's living to disappoint us. He's living to be the thin, hollow deal maker that he is and sell everybody out. Now it's concrete and tangible what his legacy is, and it's horrifying. And now the Trump movement and the Republicans own all this hypocrisy, that they didn't do the deportations, that they did the war in Iran. If Trump had never won here, the war would have started anyway, and everyone would blame the Democrats. And they'd say the Democrats started this war. It's just like Ukraine. Probably there would have been a lot more resistance to it. And it would have empowered the right wing, as well as all the other crises. If there was a recession, whatever else. So it's like a hot potato. Kamala would have caught the hot potato, and she would have, and the Democrats on the left would have been at fault. But see, this is second order thinking. These numbskulls like you're talking about, these aren't even political people. These are people that can barely read. These are people that drink beer. These are people that watch sports. These are people that are basically low IQ. They're just not political. They don't know anything. They can barely read, let alone do second or third order thinking about knock-on effects and thinking years in advance. It just isn't there. So this is it. The moment has finally arrived. Hours ago, Israel launched a preemptive attack against Iran. It is ongoing. It is occurring in waves. There have been, at the time of speaking now, at 8 o'clock Central Time, on June 12th, there have been 4 waves of airstrikes against Iran. Started with a surprise attack that originated from inside Iran, actually. Wasn't even believed to be Israeli jets, maybe drones, something else. But an attack originating either in western Iran or inside Iraq. The first wave was launched in a surprise attack at Iran's airports, air bases, and in civilian neighborhoods where the commanding officers of the IRGC reside. There were assassination strikes against Iran's military commanders. Second, third, and fourth wave airstrikes carried out by Israeli jets are attacking Iran's capital, Tehran, oil infrastructure in Avaz, and their nuclear energy and enrichment facilities at Natanz, Isfahan, and elsewhere. It is a massive, unprovoked surprise attack. We're not surprised. I've been talking about it for a long time. But the world was surprised when Israel launched the attack. They say it will go on now for days, maybe weeks. There will be weeks of waves of attacks to degrade and destroy Iran's fortified nuclear facilities, which are buried deep underground and inside mountains. carried out by Iran's Air Force. Understanding that and their ultimate objective is key to understanding how things played out today. They targeted Iran's military commanders with assassination, primarily to disable Iran's command and control, but also to permanently scuttle any kind of diplomacy between Washington and Tehran. Can't happen after this. And as the days and weeks go on, Israel will return to Iran and continue to bomb and destroy those fortified nuclear facilities, rendering them defenseless. Final push probably will be full-on regime change. Netanyahu's already hinting at that. He said that Iran's liberation day is not far off. That means overthrowing the government. That's what they always wanted. I did predict this a long time ago. I mean, I knew this was coming, and I warned people days, weeks, months, years in advance. I was vocally against Donald Trump for this reason. And to a lot of people, that was a mystery. It was so inexplicable, people actually thought I was working for the Democrats because they couldn't understand why anyone, much less someone like myself, would not be voting and enthusiastically supporting Donald Trump in 2024. But if you watch my show, and if you go to my Twitter timeline, if you go to my Telegram channel, if you watch my show, I was loudly and explicitly and vocally warning everybody that if we elect Trump, this was exactly the outcome we were going to get. And I said I couldn't vote for it. It betrays every principle of America First, objectively, but also every principle laid out by Donald Trump in his first campaign. And I said I couldn't vote for that. And like I said, nobody wanted to hear that. It was inconvenient. People said it was crazy. They didn't understand. They didn't want to understand. And so I'm a little bit smug because a lot of people have a big fat "I told you so" coming to them today. A lot. Almost everybody I know. Almost all of my colleagues. Everybody else that does what I do. They either weren't paying attention to this, it wasn't on their radar at all, or they made the wrong prediction. But on the other side of it, if the Israelis prevail and Iran falls, we are talking about an era in history where Israel dominates the entire Middle East. They're unchained from the United States. I've said this, I've alluded to this for some time. This is the part that no one has even fathomed yet. They haven't even thought this far ahead. They haven't thought that many steps ahead. Maybe they don't even have the ability to. But what happens on the other side of the fall of Iran and the total conquest and domination of the Middle East by Israel is that they become the world power. All the Jews and all of the world capitals that are working for Israel, suddenly they become our suzerain. Suddenly they become our true master. They become viceroys of an Israeli empire. This is what we're talking about. The days when the U.S. president has the ability to threaten to withhold foreign aid to Israel and make demands of that country, and for people like myself to go on Twitter and complain about these things, is going to come to an end. This is biblical. And you can take that one of two ways. A lot of people weren't listening to me. They didn't listen. They weren't paying attention. Nobody wanted to hear this. Nobody wanted to hear this message that we were hurtling towards a war with Iran. People didn't want to hear the word Israel. They didn't want to hear about Jews. That rhetoric makes people uncomfortable. It's controversial. It's provocative. Some people say it's reductive. It's simplistic. It's the truth. It's the truth. Knowing about Israel and about the influence of Israel through the global Jewish community in the United States and Europe, this is the key to understanding how these events have unfolded, not just in the past 2 weeks, 60 days, not just in the past 2 years, but going back 100 years, going back hundreds of years. People say, how am I able to predict the future? How am I seemingly able to create these prophecies that come true? Well, it's because I'm a low IQ anti-Semite, I guess. Something like that. If you know your enemy, if you know who you're dealing with, it's very easy to understand where all of this is headed. In the meantime, Trump has given Israel $12 billion. Trump has been in office for 40 days, and Trump has expedited $12 billion worth of aid to Israel. He unlocked the 2,000-pound bombs that Biden was withholding from Israel and sent them to Israel immediately. Last week, he sent over $1 billion. Today, he sent over another $4 billion. There was an additional $8 billion package that he jammed through Congress. $12 billion in equipment have been sent to Israel. So understand what has taken place. A temporary truce went into effect for 42 days. Israel got most of the remaining hostages back. They got $12 billion. They got a state visit with Trump, where Trump promised that all of Gaza would be cleared out and leveled, and they would build a resort on top of it. Israel carried out a counterinsurgency in the West Bank. All of this happened while foreign aid was cut off to every other country, including Ukraine. Every other country had its foreign aid totally cut off, including Ukraine, previously the other highest recipient, while Israel was getting more, while they were getting deeper commitments and more money, while they were stalling on the deal. Well, now we have arrived at the terminus of the first phase. The 42 days of the first phase have elapsed. No negotiations have taken place. There is no agreement in writing. There is no agreement in spirit or in principle on what would be contained in the second phase. Hamas says, we're ready for our permanent ceasefire. We're ready for you to fully withdraw. Israel said, there's also something clear, which is I think Trump is worried about what's in the files. And we have some evidence about that. And I've seen your analysis on this, and I agree in some sense that if there was anything that would indict Trump inside the files, obviously the Democrats would be all over that. Obviously, the Biden administration and their DOJ was in control of that information. If there was anything that they could use to charge him or anything embarrassing, probably they would have leaked out to the press. It would have went to Congress. They would have filed charges. That would have been the surest way to bring him down, destroy his credibility. So I totally understand that argument. At the same time, there is a lot of troubling evidence surrounding the topic. First of all, you have Jeffrey Epstein testimony from 15 years ago where he claimed, and he could be lying, it's certainly possible that he's exaggerating this or even making it up, but he said that he was close friends with Donald Trump. We have that on tape. That's on the record. It's sworn testimony. He said that he was friends with Donald Trump. This is before he died. It was before even he got charged a second time. We also have a very strange interview from last year during the election where he's asked by a reporter about the declassification of all these topics. They say, are you going to declassify 9/11? He goes, yes. Are you going to declassify JFK? He says, absolutely. Are you going to declassify Jeffrey Epstein? He goes, yes. And then very quickly he says, well, maybe. He goes, because there's some people that might be named in it and it might ruin their lives, and I'm not so sure. And that always struck me as very bizarre. And obviously, I mean, you can draw a conclusion from that, which is he is worried that he's named in it. And even if it doesn't indict him, even if it's not something criminal in nature, or he's not indicted in the sex trafficking or anything bad, his name being present in the documents at all would be a big problem for him in terms of PR. Clearly, that was his concern. That's probably why he answered the question that way. Then, of course, a week before the strikes in Iran, Elon Musk famously says on Twitter, the reason you don't have the files is because Trump is in them. Today, Musk is saying that Bannon is in the files. Now, once again, this is one person's word against another's. This is Elon Musk, and he's got a reason to play into that. He's got a rivalry now with the president. He was exiled from the White House, wasn't able to achieve his policy priorities, which is cutting the deficit. He's got a major bone to pick with Steve Bannon, so it makes sense why he'd say something like that. Would he make something up like that out of whole cloth? And so between the Epstein testimony, the weird Trump evasive answer in the interview, then the Elon Musk claim on Twitter, to me, that's enough smoke to say where there's smoke, there's fire. And let's remember also, Epstein died in custody of the Department of Justice. It was Bill Barr as Attorney General that was technically in control of the federal prison system when Epstein died in 2019. Trump was president. Now here we are 5 years later, fast forward, and once again, it is Pam Bondi as head of the DOJ. It's Kash Patel. Nobody could say these people aren't MAGA. Nobody could say these people don't want to release the Epstein tapes ostensibly. They've been talking about doing it for 5 years, and yet this is the administration that's going to bury it. Something is very fishy here, and I would just point to the timing of it and the conspicuous coincidence, which is that they bury the story the day before Netanyahu arrives. And, you know, that could be just a massive coincidence, but it's weird that they bookended like this. Elon Musk says Trump is in the files. A week later, Israel bombs Iran. And that was in complete contravention of Trump's diplomatic push to try to achieve a deal. Then, weeks after the ceasefire, Netanyahu comes to the White House, and it's reported in Axios by Barak Ravid, he's going to ask the White House to bomb Iran more. Israel wants more strikes. They say in Reuters, Netanyahu wants a second war with Iran. They want to do something even bigger. They think there's an opportunity. They're asking Trump to open it up like the Lebanon model, which means they're going to just bomb them all the time with regularity. And it's the day before this visit, again, it's sort of like bookended with what's happening in Iran, that the story then gets buried. And of course, the story runs through Jerusalem. The story runs through New York City and Jerusalem. So there's clearly something fishy going on. And I am less confident in this Trump maximalist idea, this theory that, you know, he's masterfully playing five-dimensional chess and, you know, he's got the elites bent over the barrel. It certainly doesn't feel that way. It feels like the other way around. And given, again, you know, his concern about the files being released, this whole situation with Iran, him going with Israel against really his own diplomatic initiative, it seems like they have something on him. And that to me was always the concern with this guy. He's surrounded by this element. In the first administration, it was the Chabad Lubavitchers through Jared Kushner. They pulled out of the Iran deal. You had all this smoke the first term. Now we're having all this stuff come back the second time. It's sort of like in the last 5 years, everybody forgot about all this. Everybody started to believe in, you know, kind of like a Trump that didn't exist. Got back into believing this simulacrum, you know, vaporware version of Trump from TikTok edits, from hype edits, videos with music playing, and they forgot what the first term was really like. It wasn't all that great. So unfortunately, it just feels like deja vu all over again. And if we can't trust him on the Epstein files, there's some very dark implications in all of that. I wouldn't say it's one issue. I think it's maybe the central thread. And once you start to tug on that, the whole thing comes undone. So it's a very ominous foreshadowing of the next few years. I don't feel very good about it. And I know you don't feel good about it either. This is not what we thought the golden age was going to be. This is not certainly any different than it was the first term. 10 years into this, we get, oh, Epstein's, that's all fake. Here's the MLK files that you wanted. And you go, really? Fuck you. Really? You bury the Epstein files as if that's not bad enough. You're going to lie to our faces, tell us it's a Democrat hoax. If you're not going to go with the lie, you're not a real supporter. You're not a real one. Oh, and now, well, here's some MLK files that are a load of shit. Isn't this what you wanted? We're the most transparent administration in history. And you go, fuck you. What do you mean? What a lie. You're lying. You know you're lying. You're lying to our face. You know we know you're lying. You don't even care. You're just giving us the finger and rubbing it in our faces. I don't want their support anymore. Well, fine. You don't get it anymore. Nobody should vote for Trump. Nobody should vote for Republicans. Trump must fucking pay for this statement to say, I don't want your support anymore. Every single Trump supporter, every single Republican needs to say, okay, bet. You don't want our support? Forget about the midterms. Forget it. The 2026 midterms, it just needs to be a Democrat avalanche at this point. And that's not because I'm a Democrat. I'm not. I don't like the Democrats. I hate the Republicans more because the Republicans are traitors. Because I have voted for Republicans. I have supported Republicans. and they shit on our face. And now he says, if you're not on board with the Epstein cover-up, oh, I don't want your support. You're a weakling. Fuck you. Fuck you. You suck. You are fat. You are a joke. You are stupid. You are not funny. You are not as smart as you think you are. You are, and honestly, and if you watch my show, you know I've been very critical. I've never been this far. This just goes to show this entire thing has been a scam. When we look back on the history of populism in America, we are going to look back on the MAGA movement as the biggest scam in American history. And the liberals were right. The MAGA supporters were had. They were. When we look back in history, we will see Trump as a scam artist.
You've got the Human Health Secretary, RFK Jr., saying, oh, we have to declare this an epidemic. And what we're really talking about is people voicing opinions against Israel's policies on blowing up Palestinian kids. You can accept that or you cannot accept that. It is just the reality. And if you don't understand how close we are inching to them destroying free speech, and once speech goes, everything else goes, then you need to start paying attention. They are redefining anti-Semitism to even be parts of the Bible. They are saying that it is anti-Semitism, and the Trump administration is pushing this on college campuses, to even suggest that a Jewish person might be more loyal to Israel than they are to America. That's totally plausible. It's totally plausible that a black person in America might be more loyal to Uganda than they are to America. Look at that. That is like, why are we redefining this? Portions of the Bible. I mean, it's getting crazy. So I want to show you this Senate hearing. So they had another Senate hearing, like the one that I showed up on, except this one, it was on anti-Semitism on college campuses. And I want you to listen to what this rabbi got up and said as he called for hate speech laws. Okay, this is Rabbi Levi Shemtov. He is the executive vice president of American Friends of Lubavitch. This is like a Lubavitcher who I spoke about. And RFK Jr. came and said, don't speak about Lubavitch. And I said, this is actually a very radical form of Judaism. Here is what he said. Listen to him standing up, Rabbi Levi Shemtov. Here's what he wants for America.
Anti-Semitism is not just an age-old prejudice. It is a contemporary crisis manifesting on campuses across the nation. It is not enough for individuals or institutions to merely claim they are not anti-Semitic. As my father once taught me, it is not enough for people, especially public figures, to be neutral or not be anti-Semitic. One must be anti-Semitic.
That is the exact same rhetoric, okay, as Ibram X. Kendi during the peak of BLM saying it's not enough to be racist, you have to actively be anti-racist. It's the exact same rhetoric, okay? There's no way to slice it. So what is happening right now that we, meaning the people who voted for and have supported Trump for years and got him into office because we actually were standing up to him when BLM was going crazy and calling everybody white supremacists, and people, while Trump was in office, there were George Floyd riots, people that stood up for him and said this is wrong, are now watching his administration execute the exact same thing, but this time it's for anti-Semitism. And it's not even for anti-Semitism, really. It's because this is not helpful to Jews in America. It's for Israel. Like, it feels like Netanyahu is running the White House and Trump's just signing and doing whatever they say, right? It feels like Netanyahu should be sitting in the Oval Office as they demand hate speech laws and they get what they want. Every day they're announcing something that they're going to do to further support Israel. And that something is now looking to me like a detriment to American freedom. And if you can't see that, okay, it is time for you to take off the rose-colored glasses. Because just because Trump was against all of this in 2016 does not mean that he does not have people that are around him who are for this now that we are in 2025.
It comes from the belief that you don't deserve to speak because you're not.
It comes from the belief that you do not deserve to speak because you are not fully human. That's what he was saying. Black people know this because that's basically what white people say to black people. You, as a black person, have no rights that a white person has to respect. Now, why am I saying this? While listening to Tucker Carlson. Because we are collectively touching on the source and the force that has told white men that they have no rights that need to be respected. And white men then having been created as the moat to Israel, they then tell everybody else, you all have no rights that we have to respect. Lindsey Graham said that it is better to be a slave than dead. And so what Tucker Carlson is doing is he's like, no, it's not. Tucker Carlson does not think that. He's going head on into it and he's engaging and he's not losing his voice. Lindsey Graham said, okay, I'm not fully human. That's what, by most of these guys' behavior, they said, okay, we're not fully human. We will strip ourselves of our voices. Now, before I continue to go on, there's another element here that we don't know about, okay? Candace Owens has touched on it, and we have to take it seriously. Why? Because as a kid, I had premonitions of this being a reality. What? MK Ultra. So, Tucker, keep going. Candace, keep going. Nick Fuentes, my favorite white nationalist, keep going. Guys, I've been listening to Nick since 2022. Not because I like his ideas, because he was speaking directly to something that no one else was touching on. And because 2016, I understood that our country was under attack. And so I was listening to all voices, picking out the threads from each of them. That was the truth, because we've all been indoctrinated. We all have ideas that are not good about each other. We do. Because we have all been indoctrinated. And we live in what I termed a secrecy dome. No one has been, there's not anyone who's not been affected. Okay? So, when you hear a legislator say it's better to be a slave than dead, they are saying they're an empty vessel for someone else, for a foreign country. Now, go back, please, and listen to the whole of Tucker Carlson's piece at Turning Point USA. It is very good and is on point. And that is an example of how we need to fight.
It comes from the belief that you don't deserve to speak because you're not fully human. They own you. And that's what I voted against above all. But the thing I hated most was their total unwillingness to answer any question about why they were doing what they were doing, because it was just too insulting. And I think that's really at the heart of why the Epstein thing is so distressing. I mean, the guy was some weird sex freak who was abusing girls. We knew that. But the fact that the U.S. government, the one that I voted for, refused to take my question seriously and instead said, case closed, shut up, conspiracy theorist, was too much for me. I don't think the rest of us should be satisfied with that. And by the way, let me just say really quickly, because I was so mad about it that I think I found out part of what's going on. I think we are going to find out more. And I think the truth, for whatever it's worth, in case you're interested, is that the DOJ didn't release lots of incriminating sex videos with Epstein and his billionaire pals because they don't have them. They don't have them because when the original search warrant was served 2007, I think, possibly 2006, I think 7, it was basically designed to protect Epstein. The search warrant was written in such a way to make sure that the feds never got their hands on the actually incriminating evidence. It's another way of saying the cover-up has been going on since 2007, almost 20 years. And so the real question is not, was Jeffrey Epstein a weirdo who was abusing girls? Yes, we can answer that. The real question is, why was he doing this, on whose behalf, and where did the money come from? And those are the questions that need to be answered. And I think it's entirely fair to ask them. And it's not adequate to say anyone who asked them is somehow desecrating the memory of little girls who died in Texas. I'm not going to put up with that answer. I don't care who gives that answer. That is not acceptable. And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American. And we have every right to ask, on whose behalf was he working? How does a guy go from being a math teacher at the Dalton School in the late 70s with no college degree to having multiple airplanes, a private island, and the largest residential house in Manhattan? Where did all the money come from? And no one has ever gotten to the bottom of that because no one has ever tried. And moreover, it's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing hateful about saying that. There's nothing anti-Semitic about saying that. There's nothing even anti-Israel about saying that. I've spent my entire life pretty much in Washington, where I knew and loved a number of people, including one very close person who worked at CIA. That has never prohibited me from saying, I think the CIA has done some horrible things, murdered a bunch of people, participated in the murder of a sitting U.S. president. It's got a whole trail of crimes. That doesn't make me a disloyal American. It doesn't make me anti-American in any sense. I was born here. My family's been here for hundreds of years. I love this country. That's why I live here. So criticizing the behavior of a government agency does not make you a hater. It makes you a free person. It makes you a citizen. You're allowed to do that because you're not a slave. You're a citizen. And you have a right to expect that your government will not act against your interests, and you have a right to demand that foreign governments not be allowed to act against your interest. That's not creepy. It shouldn't be forbidden. And yet all of us have trained ourselves to believe that you can't say that somehow, that that's like too naughty and forbidden. And the effect of making that off limits has been to create a lot of resentment, and I'll say it, hate online, where people feel like they can't just say, like, what the hell is this? You have the former Israeli prime minister living in your house. You have had all this contact with the foreign government. Were you working on behalf of Mossad? Were you running a blackmail operation on behalf of foreign government? By the way, every single person in Washington, D.C. thinks that. I've never met anyone who doesn't think that. I don't know any of them that hate Israel, but no one feels they can say that. Why? And I think the longer that we play along with it, the more subterranean and creepy and hateful the conversation actually becomes. So I think it's better just to say it right out loud. Did this happen? And of course that question has been asked to the government of Israel, and their answer is, we're not going to tell you. And I think our answer should be, no. As long as we're sending you money, if you were committing crimes on our soil, we have an absolute right to know, did you do this or not? And yet everybody has been so brainwashed into thinking that's somehow an expression of hate or bigotry, when it's not. It's a baseline question that every U.S. citizen has a right to an answer on. What the hell was this? And by the way, if it turns out that it was nothing at all, that somehow Jeffrey Epstein really did earn $165 million giving tax advice to somebody, which is, for the record, a lot more than most people pay their accountants, and that none of this was actually a foreign intel operation, and that there was no blackmail involved, that actually Bill Gates was just hanging on the island because the weather was especially good. No one was videotaped doing anything immoral or illegal, and then that was used against them to get them to obey. If all of that is false, then just tell me how it's false. But don't call me a lunatic. And when Fox News runs a piece, as they did yesterday by Hugh Hewitt, saying that anybody who's got even more questions about Epstein is some kind of nutcase with an unhappy personal life, who's spending too much time on Twitter in the fervid fever swamps of conspiracies, up yours, buddy. Then why don't you answer the question then? Don't let anybody insult you, anybody, and I mean anybody, ever get away with insulting you instead of answering a legitimate question. Okay? Ever.